Hey guys, in the last video I've talked about the long run, the new classical, and I'm continuing on that and focusing on explaining the shifters of the short run and long run aggregate supply. So first I'm going to start by explaining the determinants of short run aggregate supply. Okay, so the first determinant of short run aggregate supply is wage rates, definitely. So in order to help you think of it, anything that changes the cost of production of firms affects the short-run aggregate supply. So wages definitely affect wage rates. The higher the wage rates, the lower the amount of production. So the lower the wage rates, the lower cost of production, so SRAS would shift to the right. The second thing that would affect cost of production is resource costs. So other resources other than labor, for example, if land cost is higher, rent, as these rise and fall, so when land, natural resources, as prices of these rise or as they cost more, they will shift the short-run aggregate supply. Now we're going to be focusing on a very specific resource for number 3, which is oil, which affects energy and transportation costs. And this is the example that can be used in many cases on how this affects the entire economy and causes cost push inflation. So if we look at energy, which is mainly from oil, the example that can come to mind is the 1973 oil crisis, when the Gulf put a quota on the number of oil exports, and the OPEC, which is the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries, restricted the amount of oil exported. Another example is in Egypt, when electricity prices increase, or when the subsidy of gasoline and petrol is removed. So Egypt in this is between 2014 until now, when oil prices are removed, when subsidies on oil is removed, oil prices rise, and when when increase in oil price happens, this causes the cost of production to increase, and this causes the short-run aggregate supply to decrease. Let's look at the impact while we're at it on what happens to the short-run aggregates, to the economy when this happens. So this is the new equilibrium, and this is the old equilibrium. So P1, so this is, let's say, equilibrium 1 and equilibrium 2. So this is P1 and this is P2, and prices rise. And when oil prices rise as well, output falls from Y1 to Y2. So what do you notice? Let me just erase these two arrows to avoid any confusion. So what do you notice happening to the economy? Price rise, this is inflation. Output falls, this is recession or stagnation. And we call this a cost push because cost of production pushes the SRAS and pushes inflation. So we call this a cost push inflation because it comes from an increase in the cost of production, and this causes a combination of recession and inflation, and we call this stagflation. So what's the definition of stagflation? Stagflation is when both recession and inflation occur at the same time, and this happens due to rise in cost of production, or when the SRAS shifts inwards. Okay. And the last thing that can affect the cost of production is when exchange rate falls, or when the currency falls, and especially in countries that rely on imports. So especially on imported raw material. So when the imported raw material prices rise, this also affects cost of production. And this also happened in Egypt when the pound was devalued. When was it devalued? 2016. Very important date for anyone who is thinking of Egyptian economics. And these are mainly the determinants of the shift in short-term aggregate supply.